Thank you, Thing. Hello, everyone. Today's demo is one of my favorites that I have done in public many times over the years, my left hand. Or rather, in this case, since it's intended for a specific sculpture, my right hand.
Hands are an excellent subject for developing your hollow sculpting skills for several reasons. The construction is not too difficult, it is just the right size to execute at life size, and there is a handy model for you to refer to conveniently attached to the end of your arm, taking nothing away from Thing, of course. This demo will run at normal speed so you can clearly see what is going on. It is edited to remove all but the most important action, which reduces the viewing time from about 3 hours to just over 16 minutes. But every step in the process is shown as closely and clearly as I can.
This video is also edited to conceal a rather glaring mistake that I made during the process. I actually left the mistake in the video. I just removed the part where I fix it. If you watch closely, maybe you'll catch it. If you do, you can leave a comment below and show your friends how smart you are. So let's get started.
I start by making the finger blanks. These are just lengths of 20mm tube attached to a solid punty. I make them about the same length as my actual fingers, and you can see me measuring them against my actual fingers in the video. I do not sculpt the details on the fingers at this stage. I do that after they are added to the hand. The thumb is made the same way, only of a short length of 25mm tube. The best size tubing to use to replicate my arm is 75mm by 3.5mm. I have handled up a length of it about the size of my arm to a 20mm handle. Here, I am heating the wrist area and using gravity to stretch the arm at that point to separate the hand from the arm. Once I have the proportions about right, I heat the part of the bubble that will become the palm, and I flatten it using a paddle. I puff gently while I do this to keep the walls from collapsing and tagging. The shape of the palm is important. I take note of the relative length and width and thickness and try to replicate these in my glass palm. It pays for me to fuss with this until I am as close as possible. I won't be able to easily change this shape once I start to add fingers. To shape the palm, I do what I call puffing against the paddle. With this technique, I can place the wall of the bubble exactly where I want it to be. Puffing against the paddle, or any other tool, is one of the most fundamental of hollow sculpting techniques and can be used on large or small areas of the bubble. I use my trusty old butter knife to crease the lines in the palm. This also serves to create a realistic concave depression in the heart of the palm. I use the pattern of lines in my own palm as a reference. To finalize the palm, I need to slightly flatten the top where the fingers will be attached. Once that is done, I am ready to attach the fingers. I begin with the index finger. The top of the palm should have distinct corners. If you look at your hand, you will note that the index finger and the pinky are attached to these corners. I heat the first corner and pop a hole there, reaming it out as close as possible to my finger diameter. When making the initial seal, I puff and pull slightly after the stick. This helps to smooth out the inside of the seal and makes cleanup much easier and quicker. Then I heat the entire finger to create a gradient of heat that allows me to draw the finger into its correct tapered shape and pose. The index finger here will remain straight while the others will all be curved. Cleanup is done the same way I would clean up any hollow seal, except you may notice that I do not bother to bridge. The reason is simple, because I don't have to. The weld at the base of the finger is broad enough so that I can work my way around the seal, always keeping one side cool enough to support the finger. I save time this way. Of course, if you prefer bridging, go for it. The next step is sculpting the details on the finger. I begin with knuckles. Each finger has 3, and I do them all the same way. I add a dollop of hot glass, heat, and puff it smooth, and then gently tap it with the edge of my butter knife to create ridges. This also pushes the knuckle in, so I have to puff it to return it to the correct position. If I time it right, I can do it all in one heat, which is very quick and makes a perfect knuckle. The next step is to create the creases opposite the knuckles. I heat the glass and crease it with one stroke of the butter knife. Each finger has 2 creases above the palm. The first crease is actually 2 creases, and you can put 2 in if you like, but I find that it doesn't add that much, so I prefer to just put 1. The next step is the most fun. I heat the underside of the finger between each crease and puff out the fleshy part of the finger. This is a very satisfying move that really finalizes the shape of the finger, no matter what pose it is in. The last step is the fingernail. This is the hardest part of each finger. I do it using the flat edge of the butter knife in 3 quick moves. One side, then the back, and then the other side. And then I heat the entire top of the fingernail and puff while flattening it with the paddle. The middle finger is done next. I can see that I have to attach 3 more fingers in the space I have left, so I can easily pick out exactly where this finger needs to go. I pop a hole and make the seal the same way as before. But this finger is going to be bent. The hand is going to be holding a gun, so the remaining 3 fingers will be curled toward the palm. So this time, the heating and tapering also bends the finger. The tube tends to flatten out a bit as I bend it, so I puff to minimize this. I get it as close as I can with the initial bend, and then I heat and paddle it into place. Then the knuckles and creases are added, the fleshy parts puffed out, and the fingernail shaped the same way as before. With each finger added, the structure becomes more complex. It is imperative to keep everything nice and hot while I work, and so I keep a Bunsen burner going right next to my graphite plate. Many of the moves I make are done while bathing the hand in the flame from the Bunsen. Every glassworker should have this option at his or her workstation. The last two fingers are attached, shaped, and sculpted in the same manner. The pinky goes on the corner, just like the index finger did. If you look at your own hand, you'll notice that when the fingers curl, they all bend toward the palm. This is especially true of the pinky, which actually curves in a direction that is exactly opposite the thumb. I always make sure I refer to my own hands often while sculpting. Now that all the fingers are attached and sculpted, I usually like to say during my demos, that was the easy part, now comes the hard part. This is because the hardest digit to do is the thumb. If you look at the thumb, you will notice that it actually takes up the entire lower quarter of the hand. It is attached very low on the side of the palm to a large fleshy mass that moves dramatically as the thumb moves. I have to consider the position of this fleshy mass when I consider the final position of the thumb. You will notice that I do bridge the thumb. This is because I have to. So much heat is required to sculpt that quadrant of the hand that there's no other way to stabilize the thumb except to bridge. Here, you may notice that I attach the thumb a little too high. I'm able to adjust as I go, but I should have popped the hole further down on the palm. No, this is not the mistake I talked about at the beginning of this video. That has already happened and been fixed. Pay attention now. The thumb sculpting process is mostly cleanup and shaping the fleshy mass attached to the palm. The knuckles, creases, and thumbnail all come last. I spend the time it takes to get this part of the hand right. After all, it is the thumb that differentiates us from all the other animals. The hand is finished and the gun fits perfectly. I'm done.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Feel free to share and tell your friends about my channel. And keep coming back. I'll be posting more videos soon. See you next time.